Welcome. How do you say welcome in Arabic?
Bienvenidos.
Bienvenidos al podcast de los árabes en las plataformas de los medios.
En las plataformas de los medios. What is it? What is it? No. What is it?
I
want to look this
You
up.
already won. Who's Iraqi? Who's more Iraqi?
I'll say welcome in Arabic. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. So welcome to Arabs in Media, the podcast and Substack featuring real human Arabs in entertainment and news. We are featuring comic and content producer, content creator, comic and now I can't say it. Comic and content creator Reem Edan.
Yes.
Who is here because she's Iraqi like me, but also because she's a very talented and exceptional human being.
Oh, thank you. I think
Welcome.
you're a very talented and exceptional human being.
You're very kind. You're very kind. So we're talking about your work in the entertainment field and how you were fame adjacent, like 20 feet away from doing your own thing and really being who you wanted to be, and how networking and just getting in there and doing the open mic and getting kind of the backdoor understanding of how connections work, not in a nefarious way, but like how the world buzzes and got you going in the field. But it wasn't always like that kind of, Hollywood story because, being Iraqi, like me, like you, we have a really unique background. We're laughing and we're not sure because if the mic picked it up. Your stomach grumbling actually penetrated my headphones.
I'm so sorry. I knew this was going to happen. I just wish you guys could see it because I just made eye contact with him and tried to keep a straight face as it lasted like 3 seconds. What a great segue into talking about intermittent fasting.
Yeah, let's start with intermittent fasting. Then we'll go to the Iraqi thing because we're on the subject.
Okay.
Because you told me about this concept and I started looking into it and, I have, mixed feelings about it, but tell me about this idea. You're doing intermittent fasting, but it's part of a bigger program that you're following.
Yes. I feel like everyone in LA is like, I'm on a program. But about 2 months ago, my sister and I were like, let's do something like drastic. Let's do because we'd always talked about let's get in shape and stuff, but she'd heard about this program, 75 Hard. And it's more than just a diet or a crash thing. It's basically like a discipline lifestyle overhaul. So the idea is it's a 75-day program with 6 rules, and you have to abide by each of the rules every single day and for 75 days. And if you miss or skip one of them, even one, you have to restart the count.
Yeah.
So the idea is to get to the end. If you can get to the end, then winner, you have changed your life. You've built new habits. You've dramatically increased your discipline, and you can take that with you moving forward into the rest of your life. So it's like mental, it's emotional, it's physical, it's all the things.
It's like Ramadan, but 10 times harder. It sounds like. At least at first, maybe.
Exactly. So the rules are number 1, follow a diet of your choice.
Yeah.
No cheat days. Number 2, work out twice a day for 45 minutes each. One of them has to be outside. Number 3, have I lost you? This is where people are like, what? This is when they tell me they're Ramadan. That's not healthy. I'm like, I don't know. Number 3, no alcohol. Number 4, drink a gallon of water every day. Number 5, take a progress pic every day. And number 6, read 10 pages of a self-help book.
Yeah.
So this is my 3rd attempt at this thing. The first attempt was 30 days, and I was like, I will just diet. I'm not doing this again.
Yeah.
Second attempt was 3 days, and I was like, no. And this time I'm 9 days away from finishing.
Wow.
So we're making it to the end.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. So my diet of, do I get a thing?
We're going to do an applause.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So my diet of choice, I'm a huge intermittent faster. I'm an intermittent fasting evangelist. I really believe in it. for a multitude of reasons, not even intermittent fasting alone, prolonged fasting. It's a whole thing. Don't get me started. We don't have enough time. That's part 10 of this interview. But yeah, so with intermittent fasting, there's different time schedules you can follow. Some people fast for 16 hours. That's the most common. Yeah. So that means they call it like a 16-8, which means you fast for 16 hours. Fast for 16 hours, eat for 8.
Right.
Some people do 18-6. And some people do the 20-4, which means you only eat 4 hours a day and you fast 20 hours a day. And that is what your girl is on.
Wow.
Although I don't really abide by the 4 hours. I just abide by making sure I wait 20 hours from my last bite to my next bite.
Yeah. Well, that must help you if you're on the road to know that, you can't just impulse eat because you're stressed out about your travel itinerary
And I'm a huge impulse emotional eater, or like, I'm here, I might as well kind of thing.
Right.
So I think it's been great. And I'm glad you brought up the road, because I told you I failed on this diet plan a couple times. The first time when I made it 30 days, the reason I broke it was because I went on the road. I was filming something in New York. And I remember calling my sister and I was like, this is not sustainable. I am traveling. And like, when am I going to work out twice traveling? Do you know how much workout gear I have to pack for that? And I was just like complaining. I was like, I'm breaking it. And then this time around, we decided to try it again.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, let me look at my schedule, because like I'm traveling a lot. And like, I know that's not good for when you're trying to do with a program. And then it like clicked to me. I was like, wait, my entire life is travel. I travel like 70% of the year. When am I going to do this?
Right.
Like when it's convenient for my life? If not now. I was like, no, I have to. Again, the whole point of it is it's not a crash diet. It's a lifestyle reboot.
Right.
So I need to find ways to like prioritize my health and be healthy and like achieve these goals. Like even just like reading. I don't read anymore, but now I do. So I was like, when am I going to do it? Find a way to fit it into your schedule. And that was the light bulb moment. And now I've like ridden that to the end. In fact, I think I've only been in LA for 10 days of those like 60 odd days that I've done this diet.
Wow.
So yeah, it's even like I realized how many excuses I had. I was like, I don't have a gym. So I became a runner. I started running outside.
Wow.
Yeah. So like now that's like a whole thing. I bought Hoka's. I bought Hoka shoes. Because previously I was like, where am I going to go? So now it's like when I look at hotels, I find a hotel with a gym that I don't hate. Or I like book a hotel near a park so I can go running. So it's like these little things that I realize, it's not that, like, it's going to be hard. It's hard to be one way or another. Just find out how to make it work and stop using excuses.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's very motivating.
Thank you.
So when we first spoke about this and I was taking mental notes and then I came home and I quickly Googled what 75 hard was.
First thing that comes up is eating disorder.
Well, yeah, there were some critics in there. But there were alternatives and some things that were kind of recommended. And I thought, with the age cap rule that is unspoken in 75 hard, for somebody like me, you should probably not be going as hard as, twice a day with workouts. Although I will say that like maybe 5 years ago, spinning has always been my jam. Right?
Spinning was my big one.
I really love it. Like if I really get into a rut, all I need to do is just bite the bullet and schedule a spinning class.
Yeah.
Even though I have a bike, it's not the same.
It's different. Where do you go? What's your favorite spin studio?
So I bought a ClassPass thing. So I'm like trying out a bunch of different ones.
Nice.
And I actually got certified at the time 5 years ago at Hype in Silver Lake.
Okay, nice.
So there was this like 3-week thing and you had to do like 30 classes in the period of 2 weeks.
Wow.
Just for the cardio portion of this. So to be able to qualify for your certification, you had to do 30 classes to begin with, which meant that on some days you're doing 2 or even 3 spinning classes in a day just to keep up with your requirement to check off 30 classes in that period of time. And then the 3 weekends that encompass the 2 full weeks were instruction classes. So on top of the 30, you were basically on your bike for 6 hours a day each Saturday and Sunday for 3 weekends.
Yeah.
And you were learning the choreography and playlist building and kind of leading a class in the instruction of all that other kind of stuff. So it was something that I never thought I would be able to do. And it shifted so much in my brain, more than my body. I mean, I lost weight, but that was inevitable. But it was more about the shift in my head. It was like, I felt like even like opening up a door had a different power to it. Not that I was like brute force, the Incredible Hulk opening doors and slamming them. It was more like there was an automaticness to it, just reaching for the door and just not being thoughtful about the door, but making sure that the door was going to respond to what I needed versus being super mindful of the door so that it wouldn't.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was like an athletic mindset.
Yeah, and just becoming more intentional with movement in your life.
Yes.
I think that's really it.
You feel like the energy around your body is different when you're in an athletic mindset, which is part physical, but a huge part mental.
100%.
So
that's great.
But that was also like 5 or 6 years ago. And, I've, gone through the ups and downs of life like anybody else. And the challenge of doing discipline programs or diets or things that are combinations of diet and exercise is that if you stop for any period of time, like the pandemic or post-pandemic or kind of getting back into life or, just life evolving over time and certain things taking priority less than before or vice versa. I think I'm going to go for 39 soft as opposed to 75.
Soft. That's amazing. Do it. Do
right?
it. Yeah. 75 is aggressive. I don't want to do this again.
75.
I'm just trying to get to the end to prove I can do it.
Yeah.
And then I'm never doing this again.
Yeah.
No, maybe once a year or something. I don't know. It's great. I hear what you're saying because as someone who's dealt with chronic weight loss, I've been on all the diets. This is though, I will say the first time in my life where I'm not worried. Because I'm not dieting. I don't see it that way anymore. Well, I've basically been like creating a habit and training myself to be this way. In fact, like last night I had fast food for the first time in many, many, many months. And I thought I cheated the system. I was like, I'll just get a grilled chicken burger without the bread and it's grilled. What's the worst that could happen? Yeah. No, my body couldn't handle it. Like my body was... up until right now, it's probably I'm not even hungry. That's just like my body from last night making those noises. So no, but and then I realized I was like, why does this hurt me so much? Oh, it's because I'm not used to it. Well, why? Because I don't eat that way anymore. Yeah. So now I know even when I dismount from this, I'm not going to eat that way anymore because I'm different. But inevitably something will happen. I don't know, but we'll see. Like I have a friend who's a comedian and a nutritionist because we all have second things that we do.
Right.
And we've talked about it. And I think we have a plan of just like living my life, like trying to be regimented during the week and on the weekend, like having some cheat things here and there. So I think
one of the adages of nutrition and being Iraqi or any ethnicity is that carbs don't count if they come from your country of origin.
100%.
So instead of like a fast food chicken burger wrapped in lettuce, maybe go to Zanku or, El Wazir chicken or whatever, like the rotisserie, get that garlic sauce. One piece of pita ain't going to kill you.
That's true. Although we forgot to tell them I'm also doing the no carbs thing. Because I was like, listen, if I'm going to do it, if the rules are that extreme, let me add another extreme. That's the Iraqi side of me.
Right.
Like, if you're going to do it to 600%. But it's been great. It's probably the fittest I've ever been.
So your parents, now that you invoked the accent, which I love.
Oh yeah. By the way, whenever they come to town, they're like, quit this diet. Wallah, they were just in town last week and they're like, enough of this intermittent fasting. I was like, Mama, Baba, I'm on a program. Yeah. They're like, it's not convenient for us. I was like, oh, yeah, my eating is not convenient for you. I'm so sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
They have a tough time. It's just generational stuff.
They even the whole no bread thing. They're like, well, what are we supposed to eat? I was like, you can eat bread. What do you mean? Right. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's some samoon.
Yeah.
I froze it.
Yep.
That would be the hardest thing for me with the no bread would be the samoon because I've gotten to a place in life where every time I go back to Michigan, which is twice a year at least.
Nice.
Because I'm connecting with my alma mater, doing some stuff there. That. I make a point to drive through Dearborn and I buy 80 loaves of samoon.
Oh, you freeze them?
I freeze them.
Yeah, nice.
I've got 2 downstairs.
Nice. My parents travel with their own samoon. They will come from Houston with frozen bread in their bags. I'm like, TSA didn't stop you? Yeah. They're like, no. Well, they did, but I explained to them. They brought their own cheese. I was like, we have Laughing Cow cheese here. Right. They're like, yeah, but I didn't want to take a risk. I was like, on what? Yeah. What? Okay, fine.
Yeah. I've converted people on those little cans of Kraft cheese.
Oh, the little jars.
Yeah. They're so artificial. They're awesome.
I love it. Artificial is my favorite flavor.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's an obsession.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's real cheese, but then there's also like the fake cheese in a can. And when I'm not talking about spray cheese.
No, that's disgusting.
Yeah. This is like, and it's better than Velveeta, which I never grew up with. But ever since people have gotten obsessed with like going over the top with mac and cheese on Thanksgiving, and they're like 7 parts Velveeta and 23 parts Monterey Jack and 400, pieces of egg and toast and all this. No, this is just a can of Kraft cheese. It has Arabic writing on it.
Oh, I know.
On one side.
Yeah. Is it Kiri?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it's Kiri or something else. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, and just like chunks that are a little bit rubbery when you cut them out of the can, a little bit of bread or just by itself, cures your hunger.
Delicious.
Those preservatives are going to be out of your system in a day.
They're air preservatives, so they're not real.
Exactly. They'll be out of your system in a day.
Yeah, exactly.
But your parents, I love hearing you tell stories about your parents, not just now, but like in your stand-up. I mean, you probably have no idea to what extent your parents have become endeared to the Arab community in the U.S. or across the world.
Hazem, I know. When I tell you my parents are more famous than me, I'm not joking. My dad gets recognized 4 times a week. He just got recognized at a funeral.
Oh, wow.
My mom gets recognized. I know, right? I was like, even here, guys, come on. My mom has people from all around the world like reaching out and like telling her, like anyone who knows her has their relatives being like, you know her? Like it's a whole thing. It's crazy. They've really like penetrated this cultural zeitgeist.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy, which I love. Oh, I love it so much.
Now, did they resist it at first, or how did you convince them at first? You started with your dad, right?
Yeah, so I started with my dad because during COVID, my sister and I went back home to Colorado where they were living at the time. And that's actually when my social media really started. Like I've had an Instagram for a while, but I didn't really make videos in the way that I do now as a content creator. That all happened because when the pandemic shut everything down, stand-up went away. Yeah. So videos were my only creative outlet. And I started doing stuff. At first I did videos about like being Arab American and like, and I remember those started just really taking off and I was like, oh, wow. So I don't know if it's because I like found a niche or if TikTok was like, you are one thing and we're just going to show it to everyone else who's kind of like you. I don't know. But I just started making more content that way. And then slowly I started like, I think my dad got involved when we pranked him. I don't have a prank page, but there was one time where, I don't know if you've seen this video. It's called the fart spray prank.
Yes.
Oh my God. It's the funniest video I've ever made in my life. My sister and I will watch this video. There's a 7-minute long one. I cut it up for social media, but there's a 7-minute long one. And when I tell you, we cry every time. I've seen this video hundreds of times. And whenever we're sad, we just watch the fart spray. Yeah. Because it's my dad freaking out, being like, and in Iraqi Arabic, he's like, what's that smell? And then he's convinced it's me. He's like, Reem? Is that your breath? And I'm like, what? No. And I'm like dying. I'm crying at this table. Yeah. And then he's convinced. He's like mad at my mom. He's like, these are your genetics that are making her mouth stink. And I'm like, it's a whole thing. So that's kind of when it really started. And then I started to like incorporating him a couple times. I was like, hey, someone's paying me to do this brand video. Can I put you in it? Yeah. And so that's kind of how the ball got rolling. And my dad became this like breakout star, especially over the last year. And then my mom, I started making videos with her here and there, but she low-key started getting jealous because my dad was becoming famous. Yeah. And then she's like, yeah, you only want to do videos with your father. I was like, do you want to be in some videos? And she's like, yeah, I mean, okay. Yeah. I was like, okay. So I started, so my dad and I, our breakout video is their series is Iraqi Words, right? Where which came out of nowhere. He was visiting LA, and I was like, I need to film content. Hey, Dad, and I was just like, Baba, like I'm gonna ask you Iraqi words and tell me the translation. That turned into a whole series, probably one of my most popular series on my social media. And then with my mom, I do some things about like, oh, tell me things in Arabic, but really she's a good actress. So we do like sketch videos now. So we did a couple about like Arab weddings. Yes. One about like what it's like to shop with your mom, which went very viral. Yeah. So it's been fun. Yeah. I love the wedding one. Yeah. With your mom. I love the whole cajoling of, checking, trying to see if you'll go for a dance, first of all, but also like, just basically hunting down partnerships. Exactly. For you and your siblings. Yeah, like, is there somebody here for you? Exactly. It's so funny because I'm very happy with my parents getting the limelight. I'm not sitting here like, what about me? But I do think it's funny when people are like, your parents are funnier than you. And I'm like, who the fuck do you think wrote this script? Who do you think was like, you should say this. And like, who do you think directed these actors? Who do you think edited this video? And I'm like, yes, they are funnier than me. But like, I love it. My parents are like, they're finding such purpose from this, such joy. It's bringing the family together. Even my mom called me yesterday and she's like, when you were in town, I was thinking we could do a video about this. I know, she's like, we could do a video about your diet and how I want you to break it. And I was like, yeah, let's do a video where you both call me fat and tell me to stop dieting in the same video. Not that they do that, but that's just a, general Arab thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like they love it now. Like they love everything that comes along with it. And it's even like helped them come around more to the idea of what it is that I do, because now they're seeing the benefit of it. And so now they're like, oh, we've been on board since day one. Yeah. And then every other day my dad tells me to quit, but still it's a lot less. Still. Even the other day I was like, what do you want? I was like, I'm making money. What do you want? And he's like, stability. I was like, I'm stable. And he's like, yeah, I don't know what I want. I just know I like to complain. I was like, perfect. Yeah. We got to the root of it. Okay,
yeah. Wow.
But we have their approval. Generally speaking, we have the approval.
Yeah. I mean, it helps that, there's a visibility to it, right? Because it's something that they can share a link for now.
Well, now that their friends are on board.
Yeah.
Oh, now that it's not Ayeb anymore.
Right.
Now that it's not shameful. Oh, now they're like I noticed this was the major shift I noticed. There was a time I remember like the first year of comedy or the first 2 years where I had posted a video. One of their friends found it on YouTube and then they contacted my parents like, what is she saying? With criticisms. Yeah. And I remember they called my sister to have this conversation. Not even me. They always call the sibling to be like, tell her to quit. And I was like, no, there is no quitting. That's not, it's, I couldn't quit now if I wanted to, because like, how do you can't, I can't even fathom the idea of not being in this anymore. Like, what would I do for money? I'd rather not have money. Like, it's that serious. But then now that their friends are on board and their friends are fans of mine or fans of theirs, now it's like, I notice when we go out, like sometimes my parents would be like, oh, this is our daughters and Reem works in marketing and blah, 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 blah. And now my dad leads with it. Like we'll be at dinner and he's like, by the way, did you know she's a comedian? Yeah. She's actually, she's pretty popular and she has videos online. You should check it out. Yeah. I was like, oh, he plugged me. My dad plugged me. So that was, I joke around about it a lot, but like it truly was very meaningful and powerful for me to like notice that even though he will say, you should quit, deep down inside, he's like on board. Like he's telling people about me and proud of it. So that's cool.
That's kind of like the quintessential story we all face, no matter what our background is like the acceptance of the patriarchy or our parents. And not just like an acceptance, even though you get to a place in life, like you mentioned on the last episode of like, don't worry about what other people think.
Yeah.
But it contributes to like, just kind of like, this isn't a box I have to check anymore. I can just move forward on my path.
Yeah.
And do my thing. And, there are going to be some bumps in the road, but it's cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's great.
I'm awesome. I'm awesomely impressed by your family.
You're awesome.
Maybe just a little.
Just a little.
Shwaya.
Shway.
So, but the other thing that we talked about in terms of stand-up, in terms of what forms your sense of humor, and, you've got your optimism, but you've got an Iraqi background, which to me is full of cynical humor. Like Iraqis are like cynical AF.
They really are.
Like, just look at our parents' generation, right? They're just like, there's a steep cynicism in that culture. Not in a negative way or a dark way necessarily, but like there's not irony, but kind of like not cynical humor.
Like criticism?
What's the word I'm thinking of? It's kind of like we're a little bit dark.
Yeah, we are. But I also think it's because we have a very troubled past. And so maybe that's where the optimism comes from, because like Iraqis they're known to be funny people, right? So maybe, but we've dealt with a lot of trauma generationally and politically and all that stuff. And so they manage to keep a smile on their face regardless of what's happening. And I think that's this might be the first moment I'm realizing that actually, that it's just because we've been dealt such a shit hand often.
Yeah.
And are somehow like, we find ways to poke holes in it.
Yeah.
That's the sweet version, but also we like to make fun of people.
We're very good at that.
We're so good at roasting.
We are.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? I wish, there was a little bit more of that in my family. Because when we do
more
now,
roasting?
yeah. like, I think getting roasted keeps you honest.
Yeah. It also builds a lot of self-consciousness. It also hurts your self-esteem. I don't know about you, but yeah, getting roasted enough times and you're like, maybe I should stop eating for 75 days. Maybe that's the...
So there's a little bit of trauma in there.
Just a smidge. Sure.
You know, I went to Iraq a couple times when I was very young. I was sent there when I was 12 years old.
Nice. For what? For
just like a summer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, for fun.
For fun.
Oh, I feel like when in America someone gets sent away, it's because they did something bad.
Yeah. That could have been. It wasn't the case. It could have been the case, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
No, it was just, my parents wanted me to make sure that I was connected to my culture. And, there were so many years when I was growing up where it wasn't a good time to go visit. And that was always the impetus. There would be, something going on politically or, from a perceived safety perspective in Iraq. And it was just like, no, it's not a good time. It's not a good time. And finally, when I was 12, it seemed to be a good time. So I went as an unaccompanied minor.
Wow.
Which was crazy.
That's
now.
insane.
Like 12 years old, flying to Baghdad from Chicago.
It's one thing to go to like Baton Rouge to Baghdad as an unaccompanied minor. Wow.
So, and I went through London, obviously, but then once I connected onto the Iraqi Airways flight, all of that Western bubble safety of
went
like
away.
People, accompanying you through the terminal and making sure that you get to the gate, all of that was like vamoose.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I land in Baghdad and there's like 200 extended family members waiting there and like kissing and hugging me and pinching my cheeks.
Aww.
And I'm like in another time zone and jet lagged and exhausted, and half of these people I didn't recognize.
You don't have internet at this point or a phone or it's crazy.
Nothing like that.
Yeah.
But there were certain things that came out of that trip and trips that ensued. And when I went back a couple of years ago, that just like were, powerful connections to culture and heritage. And, sometimes we have the luxury of being able to, grab onto our culture that way. You did too, but it wasn't quite as voluntary.
With stand-up, you mean? Or you mean like when I went to Iraq?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, similar. I went when I was 10. And my dad and brother weren't able to come because it wasn't safe. So they thought, well, as women, you guys can go. Who's going to force you guys to join the army? So, but it was a huge learning experience for me. I also got in touch with the culture then and my family and people I didn't recognize and whatnot. But I remember quite a few things from Iraq. I remember putting on my shows for my uncles who were like, what are they feeding them in America?
Right.
I remember seeing Saddam when I was there, which was wild. Just casual Saddam sighting. And
Did you just spot him by his mustache first?
no, it was the caravan. It was like the whole.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the whole thing.
I think the Saddam mustache is awesome in general.
Yeah.
Like it really like
it's back.
It's totally back.
Yeah, the hipsters.
Yeah.
They love it.
Like you go to Intelligentsia Coffee now. It used to be the twirly thing. Now it's Saddam.
Yep. But yeah, I think it was like my first time. I mean, my parents kept us very, they forced us to go to Arabic school. Like they made us like be very aware of culture and tradition and stuff like that when we were in the United States. So I wasn't shocked or anything, but it was shocking to like be inundated in it. And yeah, my Western bubble went away and it was just like, I remember being like, they don't have real pizza here. They don't have real cheese. They don't have real Pepsi. Their Pepsi's flat. All these things that like you forget.
Right.
Because there was an embargo, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, there was, it was after probably like, there's more embargoes than you can count on two hands.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was after the first Gulf War and after the Second War, there were embargoes that did a lot of damage to, children growing up and all that stuff too. But the basic staples were things that people they were rationed. They were on the black market. There were all sorts of things that kind of like help people hostage to joys or little simple things that they could have done to just have a happy moment.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting to like get to see that side of myself. I've never been back, so it's helpful. It's been nice to at least have that part of it because I do talk about being Iraqi in my comedy and my work and stuff. So it's nice to be able to have a touch point of like a legitimate reference for what it is that where it is that I came from and what it is that I'm doing, even as like, I don't want to say a representative because I'm not a representative, but just as somebody who is one of the few on the public stage as an Iraqi.
So you do represent, even though you're not like an official.
I represent.
That's right.
Yeah.
We all do, just a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I try to, because I feel like, for me, I talk about like, I didn't know stand-up was a job. And it was because no one looked like me doing it. So I didn't know that was possible. But I kind of want to do the same thing for everybody else, for whatever it is that they want to do, is to like see me out here in a field that is not necessarily known for having women, let alone like minority women, let alone Arab women, let alone Muslim women out there telling stories about what my life and my upbringing was like in a legitimate, nuanced, funny way.
Yeah.
I think that's like, it's doing and saying so much. And I feel like we kind of talked about it, I think on the last episode, about like how I got here and how like, it's just privileged to be in this position where we can like look at that and choose our dreams. So part of me wonders, like, nature versus nurture, do people not have the opportunities like this? Or do they not have the courage to admit to themselves, like how I didn't have the courage to do it up until I did. So hopefully, I think things are changing. And I don't want to be a representative, but I want to be a positive force. And yeah, that's kind of what's in the back of my mind as I'm on this journey.
Yeah. The last time I was there, I was really kind of blown away by just the young population, because they are now the offspring of my cousins, right? And then so they're in their 20s, and they're taking me around town, and going from coffee house to an auntie's house, and all of the food and all that other kind of stuff. But they're like so engaged with their education, with school, with culture, and all of those things. And I'm like, man, so much of this could have been advanced by decades if Iraq hadn't gone through so much of its stuff.
Yeah, it's very sad to think about. It's a waste. But I will say, like, yeah, we're out there. I feel like, they might not, I have a lot of visibility because I'm in entertainment, but there's a lot of Iraqis, like, especially while I travel, a lot of Iraqis come to my show, and I'm like blown away and impressed by like what people are out there doing. Yeah. It might not be as like glamorous as, making TikToks with my dad, but it's still very cool to see like what we've accomplished, what we've become. There's like fashion designers and like athletes, and it's cool.
I'm really impressed with how much you've manifested, and I congratulate you really for the hard work that you've done on not just, the physical side of, 75 hard, or my version of it of 22-1.
Oh, it's going down, huh?
Soft.
16 slight.
But beyond that, there's this mental component to it. And, Hollywood is not an easy town for a lot of people. A lot of people leave it feeling broken. And a lot of people, really engage with the machine of it, or the process of it, to really make it work for themselves. So I guess to wrap up, my question would be, I have two things. One, we'll do the shout out in just a second, which is shouting out something that's doing good in the world. And before that, I just want to know, from a mental health standpoint, how you keep it together in a world where we're facing a genocide, where we're living through like the most horrific images day in and day out. There's so many different emotional components to what we witness on a daily basis. And, there are some people like myself who struggle with feeling good sometimes. Yeah. Because I feel guilty. So what's your advice?
Well, I think, and you're definitely going to hear some LA speak, some meditation speak, and all that. I do meditate. I do subscribe to different. There's so many tools out there to help you, generally speaking, like outside of specificity. Generally speaking, there's so many tools to help you deal with your emotions. And I think, especially as Middle Eastern people, we don't realize that. It's kind of, we are brought up in a world with so much generational trauma. It's like our parents were traumatized because of the wars and things they went through. Their parents are traumatized. And so they didn't necessarily have the education or the tools to help themselves realize what was happening in their life, and like all the emotional, psychological buildup that they have. And if you don't have those tools, you can't ever heal from it. And so I've talked to a lot of my friends who are like in therapy, and like where I think the first generation, where we're starting to like normalize seeking help, asking for help, seeking community, like being able to talk about our feelings, because what you're feeling is what I'm feeling. I feel very overwhelmed. I feel like I'm not doing enough. I feel like guilty for having this privileged life. I feel so many things, but I'm so happy that I'm able to go online and look up, like, you know, go on Reddit and see people who feel like me, or like go to a therapist. I don't go to therapy because I don't practice what I preach, but a lot of my friends go to therapy and they're able to talk. So I think like the idea that we have destigmatized mental health and like has helped. It's nice to be able to deal with that in a way, and then even help your parents deal with it. So that's one aspect to it. The other thing I will say that's helped me deal with like what's going on right now in the news is realizing that anything helps, because you feel very helpless, right? You're like, should I post? Should I like donate? Should I like call someone? Should I just like accepting that whatever it is that you're doing is helping and that you are enough. I know that's such a frou-frou thing to say, but really like, you know, whether that's having a conversation, an organic conversation, you don't have to set out and preach and like thump pamphlets, but you can like, you know, be a representative in a good way, like be like, oh, the one cool Arab who like makes it into the room or at the table, and like have those conversations in a less aggressive way where people are willing to listen, then that's enough. So whatever it is, like just like take a moment and be okay with it. Cause I think we all have so much anxiety over this. Like what should I be doing? What am I not doing? Are people going to get mad at me for doing something or not doing something? Am I going to get in trouble? Is my career going to fall apart? That like the worry is always there and it'll always be there. The only thing you can control is yourself and the positivity that you put out into the world in whatever way that is, and stop comparing it to other people and stop letting other people's opinions permeate, because once you do, it's a terrible cycle.
Well, I have to say that when I saw you, as I mentioned in the last episode, at the Arab American Comedy Festival in San Francisco, that night, one of my brothers had bought tickets, and it was a lovely night because we all needed the laughs. And you struggle with a little bit of like, oh, I feel guilty because I have the entitlement or the privilege of being able to go out to a comedy show. But the way everybody, and yourself included, approached what the world is going through with the genocide and not focusing exclusively on the trauma was just you giving us permission to show up as humans, as complex beings, as giving us permission to say, okay, you know, despite everything that's going on, or maybe even in conjunction with everything that's going on, we have to be able to have more than one emotion.
100%. You have to listen. We've all been so isolated, like especially as Arabs, and even in our own families, it's like it's a very isolating experience sometimes to be an independent thinker and have your emotions and not be one way or another, and not be judged and be criticized. It's a lot. Yeah. So we tend to like close up, and I think like it's important for us to laugh. So even when I feel like I'm not doing anything to help, I remember I'm like, no, like someone could be watching my video and like this could be the laugh that they needed. Yeah. And laughter brings us together, right? It's like there's a reason you laugh at a comedy club with other people. It's what connects us. Yeah. We also can't be existing on one emotional plane. Like it is not productive for you to feel guilt like at this level, or anger or sadness or grief. Like it is not like, just because you feel the saddest doesn't mean you somehow did the right thing. Like if I just feel sad enough, it's going to help. It's not going to help anyone. That's actually something I read in a book recently, where it's like the human mind has conditioned itself to believe that if we like feel bad about something or talk about it, it's somehow going to make it better. And it's not. It's just going to hurt you. And so how can you show up as the best version of yourself to then help people? It's to like release. It's to laugh. It's to find joy in your life and to feel okay with that. And then when you feel positive, you can then impart change. I do some climate activism, and I took a class at American University last year about like how to actually reach people to get them to do things like, or change, or do things that like positively benefit the environment or whatever. And they were talking about how doom and gloom, this idea of like the world is ending and nothing you do is going to help, and the oceans are drying up or fucking get freezing or whatever's happening to the oceans. All that does is make you disengage, because you go, well, there's nothing I can do about it anyways, so I'm just going to sit here and like accept it. And that's actually like the root cause of all evil. So instead of doing that, like in all like the messaging they have around it, it's positive. that's actually what gets people to change. I think they said the biggest factor in whether or not somebody will do something positive for the environment is if their neighbor is doing something positive for the environment. So think about that, how much more positivity influences people around you
Right.
than negativity and feeling bad. And like, so that's kind of how I view it. Cause I've lost a lot of sleep over this.
Yeah. Who hasn't?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a very human thing. And to feel like you have to do more or what can I do are human feelings. And I think that's a great perspective. It's about showing up for life and, doing what you can do.
Yeah.
Right.
Whatever that is.
It doesn't mean having to be pulled into a black hole of the horrible images. Well, I struggle still sometimes with like, if I'm not watching this, who will speak up for them? And then I realized there are lots of people who are now at this point really speaking up for that angle. And thank goodness, because, that's what they're really good at. And, that stuff isn't going away for the short term.
Yeah.
Sorry. I wasn't getting emotional. I was just like clearing my throat.
It was a pumpkin seed.
It could have been. All right, let's do the shout out real quick. We each have a shout out to somebody or something that is doing good in the world. You want me to start?
Yeah, please.
Okay. I heard a segment on NPR. It was done by Layla Fadl, who is one of their reporters. And I've been really down on NPR for a while for a number of different reasons in terms of how they language stories. And I've been so focused on news for so long that I was just like not willing to give it another shot. Well, I tuned in this morning, and to my surprise, they had a great feature interview with two directors of a documentary that's coming out called No Other Land, which looks at Palestinians who were forced from their homes in the West Bank. And it was a very empathetic, kindly languaged, even article and radio piece that I appreciated, because I was all on, my arm hair was standing on edge, ready to call them out on some sort of a language faux pas or being a policeman on how they framed some of this stuff. And they were just very human about the entire story. So that's my shout out to Layla Fadl and NPR for an exceptional story and a new documentary that's coming out that they're looking for a distributor. I learned in the story for a documentary called No Other Land, which I'm really looking forward to. That's my shout out.
This is crazy because on the way over here, my friend texted me about that documentary.
Really?
Yeah. I think they're having a screening in DC.
Oh,
in December or something like that. I just saw, I just learned about this documentary. And
wow.
I was like, oh, how cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So I knew what you were talking about. Okay. So I'm going to take a alt angle to the shout out, but there is a group in Los Angeles called Between East. And I think they're actually in New York as well. And they're starting to come up in other cities. And it is a Arab organization that provides community for people, I think specifically in the entertainment industry. But yeah, I want to say it's in the entertainment. And with them, I've found a community, and they put on a lot of events. They just did an event last week. I was on a show. I was opening for my friend, Lebanese comedian Natalie Aukar, and they organized a whole event around her show. And then they did a fundraiser for Lebanon and stuff. So I think because I'm so positive, I really want to shout them out for creating a place for all of us to find friends and to find a place. Like even when October 7th happened, they had they had safe spaces for people to come and communicate and cry and do whatever they needed to do. And I think that's such important work because, like I said, this is sometimes you feel so isolated, especially being, brown or person of color or Muslim or Arab or whatever it is in an industry that is not.
Yeah.
And yeah, they've really been taking steps to make us all feel welcome and then do good and continue to do good and get us all involved. So
good. We're going to put the link to that in the Substack and in the podcast notes. Arabs in Media on Substack, on every podcast platform. Reem Edan, you are just such a pleasure to speak with.
Well, thank you. I had so much fun. This was great speaking with you. You're a double pleasure. Pleasure in. So Arab.
Pleasure in.
I had the most pleasure. Whoa.
That's fantastic. I have this fantasy in the back of my mind that I'm going to connect my parents to your parents at some point.
Oh, so everyone has this fantasy.
Yeah, I bet.
The DMs I get of like, I think our parents should meet. I'm like, I think not. Thank you. Well, for $300 you can. You do a little meet and greet situation. But maybe, actually, I'll connect you with my parents. Where do your parents live?
They're in Chicago, yeah.
Okay.
So, but it sounds like they should be in Houston, like on some level.
Maybe my parents will visit your parents. Maybe I'll plan a trip to Chicago.
Maybe next time you're touring there, we can all meet up.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Look at that.
That sounds good.
Connecting people.
Reem. أنا أحبك.
أنا أحبك كثير.
Oh.
Wow, I just did Lebanese. أنا أحبك هواية. There you go. That's that.
Oh, there. That's very Iraqi. We just confessed our love for each other. Very, very brotherly and sisterly love.
Love it. Thank you for having me. This was great.
Thank you for being a part of this episode and the last episode, and for joining us on Arabs and Media. We'd love to have you again sometime.
I would love that.
All right.
Next time I'll be off my diet. I can't wait.
If you were on this entire restriction for the course of 2 podcast episodes and you weren't cranky once, I can only imagine how happy and jumping for glee you would be
Yep.
without this thing.
Chronically positive.
Yeah.
And hungry.